Hello, I'm Aram from BioRower and from Aram Training Rowing Coaching. A few questions on lactate measuring. Why do we do it? How do we do it? And what to do with the results. So what is lactate? It is something that occurs in our muscles. It's part of an energy production cycle. We used to think it is something bad. We used to think it is something that destroys your muscles. Now we know it's not. It's something our body can use intelligently to create new energy called ATP. The point of it is that lactate is something we can measure very well to find out how hard the workload is for someone. So why do we measure lactate? It is very important to know how hard you train someone. This is actually quite simple. If we have glucose, this is a type of blood sugar we use. Glucose is something our body can extract from carbs, from fat, and from proteins you eat. So in the end, when you eat, what comes into your blood system is glucose. And glucose is one of the prime sources for your body to generate ATP. So in order to generate a muscle contraction, your body needs ATP. But ATP, unfortunately, cannot be eaten. The only thing you can eat is fat, carbs, and proteins. So your body has to absorb glucose from your food and bring it to your muscle cells. When it comes to your muscle cells, 1 mole of glucose is being turned into 36 ATPs when we are below the anaerobic threshold level. Anaerobic threshold is something we call the 4 millimole lactate level. But in fact, it's not 4 millimole, it's just an average. So the anaerobic threshold level can be anywhere from 2.6 millimole to up to 7.5 millimoles. And this can be different from person to person, from day to day. So there is no fixed guarantee that your 4 millimole is actually your anaerobic threshold. But there are some tricks you can use, and I use them in my coaching, so you have a guarantee that you always work in the right areas, at least for some part of the time. Join one of our seminars where we talk it all through. To recap everything, 1 mole of glucose comes to our muscle cell. We can extract 2 mole of ATP. In another cycle, we can extract another 2 mole of ATP. And in another cycle, we can extract another 32 mole of ATP, which makes 36. So we have 3 cycles. This is all below anaerobic threshold. If we go above anaerobic threshold level, our body cannot do the last 2 cycles of generating ATP. And what does it all have to do with lactate? Very simple. In the last 2 cycles I just mentioned, where we generate another 2 and another 32 mole of ATP, we have to use lactate in order to regenerate the ATP. How great is that? We produce lactate during our work and we use it to get more energy. But once we reach that anaerobic threshold level, the last 2 cycles where the lactate is needed in order to regenerate ATP are not used anymore. Only the first cycle is being used. So the lactate builds up until we have endless amounts of lactate in our body. And this lactate is something we cannot use, and we usually feel pain during this. To clear up a few myths, you only build up lactate when you do hard training? No, you always build up lactate. But if you train below anaerobic threshold, you can reuse just about the same amount of lactate that you produce during your muscle work. Once you reach that anaerobic threshold, what happens is that your lactate cannot be reused anymore because we skipped the last 2 cycles. So the lactate builds up, and this is what we measure in your finger and in your ear. So why is it so important for us rowers? What do we do with the results? Imagine the longer you can do a race and still be below anaerobic threshold, the more energy you can extract from every mole of glucose you have. To put it in other words, the longer you can race still being below anaerobic threshold level, the longer you can use the given energies you have in your body more efficiently. You can use 95% more of your glucose energy if you are below anaerobic threshold. In my coaching, I always measure lactate, especially in the winter. We sit on a BioRower and then take blood from the ear. And I want to make sure that the body learns to do a lot of workload, a lot of watts over a long period of time, still being below anaerobic threshold level. And the more watts you can produce and still be below anaerobic threshold, the faster you can go during a race without killing yourself. This is important because at the middle 1,000, this is where usually the lactate starts to kick in, no matter how strong you are. If you already are at a high lactate level in the early stages of a race, this is going to be an extraordinarily hard race for you. And we have to consider another fact. Whenever you do anaerobic work, and we have to do it of course, but some teams do it extensively. They do it so much, they totally forget about the below anaerobic threshold work. So what happens is that there is a lot of stuff in your bloodstream that cannot be transported away. And this usually causes a lot of sickness and a lot of injuries. Your body needs time to clean itself out. And this cleaning process can only be done if you do it below anaerobic threshold. So training below anaerobic threshold level, below that 4 millimole level, has two main benefits. The first one is we teach the body to do a lot of watts below 4 millimole level. So to be very efficient in terms of extracting energy from every mole of glucose you have in your body. This means you can go fast in a race and not tire so quickly. The second benefit we have is that our body is able to recover and to clean itself. We need to do a lot of low intensity work in order to clean our bodies and to avoid injuries and to avoid overstress, to avoid fatigue. And I see this with quite a few athletes who train very hard, who are being pushed up to their limits. My personal philosophy is you need to be pushed to your limits, but you need to give your body a rest every once in a while. And rest doesn't mean to do nothing, it means to do low lactate threshold work. I hope this clarifies the lactate question a bit. I know it's very simple, it's an overview, and of course I will answer all the questions and talk about it in detail in one of the seminars on competitive rowing and strategic training planning.